because God is revelatory. He's always truth revealing. Okay, and he's secured
And how do
the
you
fact
know
that we
that
can
is
know
true?
things to be the case because God's revealed it to be the case. God's the basis of my epistemology. Jen, you can come up as well if you want to. All right, Lag, are you an atheist?
Sorry, wasn't you supposed to explain something to me?
I am. Are you an atheist though? I want to know from you.
Well,
Are
if
you
you're
an
gonna
atheist?
explain something to me, you don't need to ask me any questions, right?
I so maybe you're not aware of this, but I'm the owner of the room, and I have the prerogative. It's my right. It's my prerogative if I want to ask you questions. I'll get to
Yeah,
that
of
in a
course you
second.
can. But
Are
then
you
you're
an
not
atheist?
explaining something.
Are you an atheist?
If you're asking me something, you're not explaining, right? You're just asking me.
I didn't say I was explaining it. I said I could explain it to you, and I will. I want to know from
Oh, I
you.
see.
Are you
Okay.
an atheist?
I wouldn't say that I'm an atheist. No.
Okay, so you believe in God?
Um, what do you mean, God?
Well, that's God is defined as a mind, and God is ultimate. And ultimate refers to the fact that God is um, metaphysically primary, meaning He is the source and basis for all that is, that can be, and cannot be.
What's the argument for that?
Well, I thought you wanted me to explain what or sorry, I thought you just wanted me to explain what ultimate means. Do you understand what ultimate means now?
Oh, yeah. You said you said that it means that it's the primary source for everything that is, right? Like a basic
Yeah,
meaning.
God is ultimate. Yeah,
Yeah. So, why should I accept that as a premise?
that there is an ultimate mind.
No. Yeah. Well, the ultimate part. Why should I accept that the mind is ultimate?
Because if there is no ultimate, then there is or metaphysical. Yeah. Ultimate I just take to be like a metaphysical primary reality. Then there is no basis. The entire world, anything that you would assert would be rendered unintelligible and meaningless.
Why?
The contrary, if there is no ultimate foundation or frame of reference to appeal to, then to appeal to things like truth would be meaningless because metaphysics deals with the nature of reality. Are you familiar with what metaphysics is?
Not really. No.
Okay. Metaphysics deals with the nature of reality, the nature of truth, right? So if you ask me, what does it mean for it to be true that the apple's on the counter? That's a metaphysical question because you're asking what the nature of truth is. If you ask, what does it mean for it to be possible or necessary for the apple to be on the counter? Then that's also a metaphysical question. Okay.
Yes, you're saying that God is
So
a necessary being.
you're dealing with the well, I'm saying that God is we're talking about ultimacy, right? So if we say God is ultimate, that's what we're referring to. Okay, that God
Mm-hmm.
is the metaphysical basis and reality. If there was no metaphysical reality to appeal to, then everything that would be purported to say to occur, right? That you'd purport that there are certain states of affairs that are occurring, they'd all be just spontaneous, random, and without any connection or correlativeness between each other because there's nothing that's actually grounding that. There is no
Okay,
metaphysical
so
reality.
uh,
So do you understand that?
kinda. So you're saying that God is necessary for there to be truth?
I'm saying, yeah, well, like God is a metaphysical necessity. Necessity. By metaphysical necessity, I'm saying that God is the basis for all things. That's what
Yeah. Okay.
metaphysical necessity refers to.
And what is the contradiction that is entailed by God's non-existence?
I just told you that
Oh
if
well, sorry.
the world wouldn't exist. So are you familiar with transcendental reasoning?
No.
Okay, transcendental reasoning is reasoning to what is necessary for certain things to be the case. So for example, if I say that um, flour is required for cake to exist, as premise one. Premise two being cake exists, then it would necessarily follow that flour exists, right?
Sure.
Okay, right. That would be necessarily entailed by the first two premises, correct?
Yeah, I guess.
It's valid reasoning, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if I say that God is required for intelligibility, for rationality, for knowledge, okay, and that we have knowledge, therefore
Mm-hmm.
God exists and that God is ultimate, then that would
Mm-hmm.
be necessarily entailed, correct?
True. It
Okay.
would well,
So,
it would be a valid argument, but would not be sound necessarily.
well, I'm asking you if it's, that's what I'm asking you, it's a valid argument, right? We'll get to the
Yeah,
soundness in a second, but if,
if I accept the premise, sure,
okay.
it's valid.
So then if we're talking about God's existence and God being metaphysically necessary, we're saying that if it is the case that we can that we have access to truth and if the world exists intelligibly then God exists as that which is ultimate. So we're talking about God's ultimacy for one here, because that's what you asked me about. So God's ultimacy is required, right? Because by reductio ad absurdum, if it were not the case, then the world that we live in, your brain states themselves, um, and everything that could be appealed to as occurring or as a state of affairs potentially would be spontaneous without any rhyme or reason or correlativity or connectivity. Do you accept that?
Why is that?
Because there is no metaphysical basis that's actually going to undergird them. There's nothing
Well,
foundational or fundamental. So for example, when you say you couldn't even appeal to things like logical necessity in that world because nothing is necessary, nothing is fundamental. So nothing, everything is just a brute contingency that's just spontaneously arising out of nothingness, out of a
yeah,
metaphysical void.
and what's wrong with that?
Well, then there is no rationality, there's no intelligibility, there's no um, nothing of that order or nothing of that sort would exist in that world
Why?
because well, I'll just explain it to you. There's no foundational basis for it. So
Well,
then it wouldn't
it was
exist.
spontaneous, right? Rationality
Right,
can be
exactly.
spontaneous.
No, but it wouldn't be reflective of actually like the what the reality of the situation is. So it would be what
That's
you
begging the wait. That's begging the question. That's you assuming that it is the case that it needs this ultimate being or mind.
know is just definitionally true because a metaphysic deals with the nature of reality. If there is no nature to reality, then to appeal to reality would be meaningless. It would just be a void
Well, I never.
statement.
Well, whoa, I
Like
never
for
accepted.
example, like for example, um, are you familiar with moral nihilism?
No.
Okay. Um, I like to use this example when I'm appealing to this. So, for example, somebody who's a moral nihilist wouldn't would refrain from making statements about morality because they believe that there's no meta ethical um, reality that exists, right? So they would believe, moral error theory or moral nihilism. There are plenty of other camps that would be consistent with this, morally speaking, where they would just not make any statements about moral reality. They wouldn't make any statements about what is good or bad because they believe that they're substanceless and irrational statements to make because there is no nature to what is good or bad. Okay, so in the same way, if we're going to appeal to reality, if we're going to appeal to facts, or if we're going to appeal to truth, if we're going to appeal to causal connections or correlativity between facts that exist, if we're going to do so meaningfully, there's going to need to be a metaphysical reality that's going to undergird that, because otherwise it wouldn't mean anything foundationally for you to say that something is true
Well, if
and that
you're
is distinct from
redefining
that which is
God to
not.
just be a metaphysical reality, then sure, I
Did
agree
I
that
did I
there is.
redefine anything? I didn't redefine anything.
Well, you
This has
said.
been my. I don't know how familiar you are with me or my lines of reasoning, but I've
No,
never I've
I'm
never
not.
defined
No.
God. Okay, then on what basis are you saying that I'm redefining God?
Well, you said a mind that is ultimate, and now you're
Yeah, how
saying
am I
that
how, how
in
am I
order.
redefining how am
Yeah.
I
So
redefining God?
yeah, I was about to explain to it. You said that God is a mind that is ultimate, and the basis for anything that is fundamental or is yeah, fundamental.
Yeah.
But now you were talking about whether or not this is that the fundamentalness itself is there in the first place. What's the grounding for
Yeah, how
God?
did I how did I redefine how did I redefine God?
Oh well, I asked what would not be there if God was not there. And you said,
Yeah, I
"Oh
don't
wait, yeah, I
listen,
understand.
listen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
No,
are you
yeah,
talking
my
about?
bad. Yeah, my bad, my bad. I mean, I misunderstood. Of course, I see it now. Yeah,
Okay. So God is defined as an ultimate uh metaphysical being, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um so that's why a metaphysical uh reality or metaphysical ultimate is required, okay? Because if it were not to be the case, this is a reductio, showing that if something were not the case, the consequences of that. That everything that occurs would be utterly and foundationally spontaneous without any rhyme or reason. Okay, and there's no intelligibility in that world. Okay, because to appeal to rational lines of thought, discursive and inferential reasoning, it, that presupposes that there's a correlativity and there's a logical
Mm-hmm.
or other sorts of relationships between facts that is simply not there in a world where
Mm-hmm.
there is no grounding for that.
Sure.
Okay,
What
so
is
do you
it that
accept that?
grounds God?
God is ase. He's self-contained. He doesn't require any external grounding to himself.
Why could this not be the case for the metaphysical necessity? Sorry, yeah, the metaphysics itself.
Well, once you start invoking facts, you're going to be invoking a metaphysic towards them. If you don't invoke a metaphysic,
Yeah.
then
Why
the
couldn't
fact
that
doesn't
metaphysic
exist.
itself? Yeah, I'm accepting metaphysic, but I'm not accepting the God premise, right? So why could you, well, you said that God doesn't need any grounding, basically. Why could this not be the
Yeah,
case just for metaphysics?
I don't understand your question. Why couldn't this be the case for metaphysics?
Yeah.
What,
Why
what does
does
that what does that
metaphysics
mean?
needs a grounding?
Did I say metaphysics? I said that God is a metaphysical reality. God is a metaphysical ultimate.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So God doesn't ground metaphysical reality. He just is metaphysical reality.
Yeah, well, God would be the source of all things that are the case, all things that are possible. God would be like when you say that something is the case, you're appealing
Yeah, because then
metaphysically to God as a foundation.
yeah, this is why I accused you of like redefining it, because first I understood God to be like an agent, right? A mind that is ultimate. But now you're saying that the mind itself is the metaphysical reality.
No, I'm only talking about God being ultimate for right now because I can only talk about one property at a time. I didn't redefine. Well, how did I redefine God?
No, yeah, sure. I'm not saying that you did. I'm saying that's
No,
how
you
I
just
got
you
confused.
did. Yes, you did.
No, yeah, I said that's how I got confused.
So are you still confused?
I'm still confused. Yeah, you're saying that
Okay, what are
God
you
is the
confused about?
metaphysical reality.
Yeah, God is a metaphysical. So I'm just using that and to say that God is metaphysically primary. God is ultimate, right? Outside of God and external to God, there is nothing that God depends upon,
Hmm.
right? God is foundational to all of reality. So in that sense, God, I would say that God is a metaphysical primary or reality.
Yeah. If
God's also a
um,
mind, meaning that God is a conscious entity. God's a conscious being.
And how do we know that God is mind and not just the reality itself? Because the reality part I agree with, or I understand at least.
Okay. Well, God's a mind. Um, I don't take it just to be that God's a mind, but with that comes God being personal and relational and revelatory. Okay. God's The reason why that's required is because that's going to ground um, our epistemology, the fact that we can know certain things or come to acquisition of the truth.
Hmm.
If that were not the case, right? If there was no acquisition of the truth that was given to us by means of revelation, then all we'd be appealing to is our own first person experience and what we consider the minds of that which is creaturely. Because at this point we're in the realm of that which is ultimate, right? And then that which is not ultimate. If all we're appealing to is our own mind, our own first person experience, then that itself cannot come um, to the knowledge of that which is foundational. You can't establish, for example, the eternality of something via your own reasoning. You can't
Wait, you
establish that
can't.
via your
Wait, what was
own
that? You
first
can't
first
establish eternality through reasoning, your own reasoning.
No, not through your own first person experience, no.
Oh,
Not
wait,
not
yeah,
not
not
purely
through
because of
person
that.
experience, sure, but you can.
Well, I'm saying reasoning divorced from that which is ultimate, right? Because I said that in this world, you're not relying on God being revelatory. You're relying purely and solely on your own first person experience and the reasoning that's derived from that, not off of any revelation of God. And because of that, then to establish anything as the case, to establish anything as true, to appeal to your potential or purported acquisition of truth would be baseless because you have no basis metaphysically to that you can assert that anything is.
Would you say that there is an impossibility that uh, God does not exist as a mind?
Yes, in the world that we exist in the world where there is knowledge, and yeah, in the world where there is acquisition of truth, in the world where there is we have a basis for rationality and intelligibility. Yes, and I've just demonstrated that. I demonstrated that God is
Well,
the necessary precondition for rationality, for knowledge, for intelligibility, etc.
well, yeah, but sure, but only the metaphysical part, not the mind part. That's why I
Well, I'm,
asked.
I'm
Do you
now
think?
establishing, so that's why I've told you that if God's a mind, right?
Mhm.
And I don't take it just that God is just conscious, right? But that's a prerequisite for God being revelatory, right? And God being relational. Um, those things are going to be required if we're going to establish our epistemology, which is our acquisition of truth or knowledge. Okay,
Why?
There is no. Did you not understand what I said?
You said that God's relational. God's gonna have to be relational in order for us to have
Yes.
knowledge.
Relational or revelatory. Revelatory requires God being relational, and God being relational requires God being some sort of a mind, a conscious being. Like rocks are not
Yeah.
relational. Okay.
Why does that follow?
Why does what follow?
That God has to be a mind or revelatory or relational for us
Yeah,
to have
because
knowledge.
so God grounds not only our ontology, the ontological, which is just established that there's a foundational rhyme and reason to everything, but the fact that we can know things, our epistemology. So God grounds both of them. Okay,
Yeah, and
so
just in terms of epistemology.
the reason why God's required for our epistemology, I'm going to show another reductio now. Okay, so the world where you're trying to establish truth, right, but you don't have access to that which is metaphysically primary, you're epistemically in the same position as someone who adopts a worldview where there is no metaphysical reality. Because for you to appeal to something being true, for you to appeal to something being the case, fundamentally you're going to have access to what it means for something to be true, for
Hmm.
what it means for something to be the case. If I tell
Yeah.
you that it is true the apple is sitting on the counter, and then you ask me, JRobin, what does it mean for it to be true that XYZ is the case? What does apple mean? What does counter mean? And I tell you, I don't know what any of that is. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just verbalizing is just sound and fury signifying nothing, right?
Yeah, you're
With
just
respect to
talking
what
nonsense.
I'm
Yeah, I
saying.
see. Yeah.
Exactly. So with that regard, right? If God is not revelatory, if God is not foundational, if God is not revelatory and He's not imparting to you knowledge,
Hmm.
then anything that you purport to be the case is purely and solely based on your own first person experience and reasoning. And for you to establish anything to be the case, you're going to need to have access to that which is foundational
Yeah.
and ultimate. Okay. But the problem is you can't establish that anything is foundational and ultimate. Okay. That's not possible for you to establish. For example, we just talked about God being eternal, right?
Hmm.
How do you, or God being ultimate? I take eternality to be an entailment of God being ultimate. I don't know if I made that clear earlier, but
Okay.
and the reason why is because if God's ultimate, the foundational basis for everything, that means he couldn't have began to exist, right? Because if God began to exist, then that means that prior to God, um, for one, God is contingent upon um, the succession of events, right, which would negate his ultimacy, and then whatever metaphysical reality existed prior to God would then negate God being ultimate as that which is metaphysically primary. So I just take it that God
But
being
this is
ultimate
like
or God being
this is
eternal
not a
is an
this
entailment.
this is not addressing the objection that I'm raising, right? Or like, sorry,
Well,
the question that I'm
we are.
raising.
I'm addressing it. Well, I had to make a side point of God being eternal
Okay.
because, and that's not the only attribute, right? God being
Yeah.
revelatory
Yeah.
and all that kind of thing. So when we're talking about God being eternal, or God being ultimate, there's no way for you to establish that as a first person creature, right? Could you establish that anything at all is eternal?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then on what basis could you say that anything is a metaphysical primary or metaphysical necessity if you can't first establish that it's eternal? Because if it's not eternal, then it's
Uh,
not the metaphysical reality or metaphysical um, necessity.
why is that?
I just went over it. If
No,
the
wait.
metaphysical
Could
the metaphysical reality is going to be outside of things like time and outside of things like it would be metaphysically necessary, right? It would be the source and basis of all things. That's what the
wait, are
metaphysical reality would be.
are God contingent on the laws of logic?
No,
Oh, okay, so God is
God is God would be
God can do
consistent with
illogical things.
no. So let me put it this way: God is not contingent upon the laws of logic in the sense that the laws of logic are external to God and God depends upon them for his actuality or anything like that. The
Hmm.
laws of logic are reflections of who God is.
Hmm.
Okay.
So God can do illogical things, right?
No,
God cannot do illogical things.
God cannot violate his own himself because
So
God would be the laws of God would be. So I hold also that like divine simplicity would be consistent with God being ultimate, but we can just say like that the laws of logic are just simply reflections of who God is and God's character.
yeah, okay. So
So that wouldn't mean that God can violate himself. We're just saying
Um,
that God is who He is, and and the laws of logic are consistent with that. And there's no external reality that God is beholden to, external to Himself, right? Because that would be what's important. That's going to be the reason why God cannot do something. Anything that is a limit to God would be internal to God.
sure. So,
Okay.
you're
So
saying
God
that
being a
God
mind. So
cannot. Hmm.
let's establish God being a mind first, okay? And then we can get to the other peripheral issues because really all
Yeah,
that's
well,
required
I
to be
was
a
going to
theist
get
is to
back to that, but
adopt that
sure,
God
yeah, go
is
on.
okay. So God being a mind is going to require that there is some sort of revelation, or God. I'll just say God being revelatory. I think that entails a mind that God's um, personal for the reasons stated earlier. But we just established as a first person agent that's not possible for us to do because for one we're contingent, for one we're finite. Okay, all of us are finite creatures, so there's no way for us to establish that something existed um, without presupposing it eternally. Okay, that's
I
not
don't
that's
agree
not
to
within
that.
our okay, so how do you do that?
Well, something can exist in a temporal state and be true within that temporal state. And once
I'm
that
asking,
temporal
no, no,
state,
no. I'm talking about something being eternal.
yeah,
Us first
eternal,
person creatures. Go ahead.
meaning that like it does not end, right? What do you mean
Well,
eternal?
God
Maybe
being
I'm
God being
misunderstanding you.
eternal means that he never began to exist and he will never cease to exist. God is
Um,
absolute and eternal in that sense.
yeah. So,
Okay. So how do you establish as a first person agent, as a subjective creature,
mhm.
um, that something is eternal?
I don't think. Wait, I never said that I could.
Well, that's the point, right? If you can't, then to establish, so then to make the appeal to something being true on
Well,
the
to be
basis of a
fair, I never said that I
metaphysical.
can't either. I just said that I never could.
Okay, well, can you?
I don't know.
Okay, well, the point is that you can't. That's not something that us as finite creatures can do
What would be the
because we're limited.
contradiction?
We're limited in our nature, right? We're finite creatures.
Okay.
We're finite creatures, so to establish anything before ourselves, we're contingent upon. We're just contingent, right? We're contingent upon that which is before us. So that would just be a limitation of our nature. Our nature is that of finite beings that are first person. We can't escape um, our own minds, our own consciousness to evaluate, you know, the metaphysical reality out just by ourselves. Right? What I'm saying is that it's going to require something being metaphysically primary and revelatory that's going to actually give us the ability to apprehend truth, the ability to know truth. Without that, what you're left with in your system is you don't have a basis to establish that anything is metaphysically primary. So when you say that something is true, as per your own concession earlier, you don't know what you're talking about when
Oh,
you
I
say
would
that.
just say that it would just be an estimated guess, right? What
So you
appears to
don't,
be
but you
true.
don't. So it's just blind speculation and conjecture on your part. Then any statement of
Um,
truth is just speculation and conjecture.
well,
But it's probably worse. It's actually worse than that. But to put it nicely, that's what it is.
well, it would be like this according to my senses, and I believe my senses to be true.
No, but
I
that no.
speculate.
Listen. No, 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 no. Because your senses is required. Your senses, right? That's a proximate fact. That's that. To appeal to the fact to say that it is a fact that your senses exist and are reliable needs to
Hmm.
have a metaphysical basis, which you don't
Yeah,
have.
but I'm not
So to
saying that
appeal,
it's a
your senses
fact.
don't mean anything.
Wait, I'm not
Is
saying
that a
that my
fact?
senses. No, wait, I'm not saying that my senses are a fact.
No, you're saying it's a fact that you believe that senses are reliable. You
No,
you
I'm
believe
saying I
it's a
think
fact that
that
your
I.
senses are reliable.
Wait, no, I never posited a fact at all. All I'm
Is
saying
any
is
is
that I
any of what
think.
you're saying factual? Is any of what you're saying at all factual? Anything?
Um, I don't know.
Is that a fact?
I don't know.
Okay, so then there's no point in talking to you then, because you're not actually saying anything that has any basis in reality, right? Because if you take a
Wait, but
fact to be something that is real, you don't know what you're talking about. That's what you're in. That's the quagmire that all atheists are in. I mean, you've
okay,
just proven my point to me.
okay. Well, if you don't want to talk, I take that as a
Well, you don't
concession.
know anything. You don't know anything to be true. You're not actually making any truth statements. So why would I talk to someone who's not making? It's like me talk. It's like me talking to,
Well, I'm trying to
some
find.
a robot that's just
I'm,
making
I'm
sounds. A robot, just making sounds, beep boop. It's not any truth
yeah, yeah.
statements, right?
I'm a
So why would I talk to someone?
Wait,
Yeah,
so you're
if you
trying?
don't mind, I'm a little confused too as to even why you're even asking questions. Then
Right.
it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
I'm saying because I'm trying to
Wait,
find
wait, wait,
out
wait.
if.
Hold on.
Oh,
Hold on.
okay.
Let me
Yeah.
finish. Hold on. Let me finish. If you don't know anything, if you don't know facts exist or truth exists, why do you even ask questions for clarification then? Because nothing.
Because they. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, and trust me, man, I'm a complete layman here. I'm probably the worst at arguing philosophy in this entire room right now. But what you're
Hmm.
saying doesn't make any sense to us, a layman like me.
Okay.
Is why you're asking questions. How can you say that you don't know if any facts are true or anything is true, but yet you're asking people questions?
I'm
To,
gonna. Yeah, I'm
doesn't
gonna draw up an analogy. Just pretend that I'm a child, right? And I'm coming up to the grown-ups and
yeah.
asking like, "What does 1 plus 1 equals?" And then the grown-up says two, right?
No, you're equivocating because we're not
Oh, okay.
talking about
Well,
proximate
what
facts. We're
would be the
talking
same
about
if
the
you're greater?
metaphysical. Well, we're talking about the metaphysical reality, the nature of what it even means to be a fact that
Yeah.
1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, you
I
don't have a
know. Yeah,
basis
yeah.
to assume anything like that. Okay,
Wait.
you don't have a
Okay.
basis to assume anything
Cool.
like that.
But no, no. Wait. What? You misunderstood the analogy then, because you are claiming that you have truth, that you understand truth.
Correct.
But and then I'm asking, how can you know? And then you're saying, without this, we couldn't know anything. And I would just say that, well, maybe you don't know anything. And then you're saying, well, then there's no point talking to you. It just seems like
Do
you're
you know anything?
dogmatically
Do you know
assert.
that?
No, I said it seems like it.
No, I'm asking. Do you know that we don't know anything?
No, I said it
That nobody
seems
knows
like it.
anything. Do you know that? Do you know? Do you know it seems like that?
No, it seems like that.
What does it seem like exactly?
It does seem like it seems like that you know anything.
It seems like I know things.
Yeah. Well, from
Okay.
if well, I believe my senses to be true, right?
Okay.
And my
And
senses
on what basis
through
are you saying
going
that you can
through.
know things to be
Yeah,
true? If
I was
if you don't have access to that which is metaphysically primary, that's actually revealing things to be true. On what basis can you say that you know anything at all?
well, I don't know. It's just a wild guess, right? But it's
Okay, so
a
speculation.
guess that, yeah, speculation. But it's a guess that
Good.
like has worked well in the past.
Yeah, but you can't appeal
Therefore,
to working well in the past without any basis in metaphysics, because the
well, I think
past
they've been
and
working well in the past, right?
and
I know that
continuity.
you're talking in absolutes, but all I'm saying is that like this seems to be the case.
Yeah, but even that statement would just be rendered meaningless with respect to your system because you don't have any basis in reality. That statement doesn't have any
Wait,
basis in ultimate
I don't
reality.
have any basis in reality.
Not according to your worldview. No, not your state. On your own terms, you don't have access to ultimate reality. You can't establish anything
Um,
ultimately.
I don't think I've ever said that. I'm just positing a worldview that like doesn't
Well,
know anything.
I asked you if you could establish that which is metaphysically ultimate and
Yeah,
that
and
is
I
eternal, and you said
didn't
you
say
couldn't.
that I can't, right? I just said
Well,
I
then
don't
do it.
know.
Can you do it now if you can? I want to hear it. I want to
Okay,
hear
so
your line of reasoning for it.
I'm gonna say the same thing that I said earlier. I just say I don't know because you are
Okay,
making
then
the
you
claim.
can't.
I
No,
am
no.
not
The answer.
making the
Then
claim.
listen. I'm not gonna play this game with you. If you're gonna come
Okay.
onto the stage and have an intellectual discussion and exchange ideas with each other, then you're gonna present
Hmm.
your own worldview. Because I've been sitting here for about, I don't know how long it's been, but I'm guessing about 30 minutes, explaining my worldview to you. And I want to know
Hmm.
from you if you believe that you can actually substantiate what you believe to be metaphysically ultimate and that it's eternal, and you can't
Well,
do it.
I'm pretty new to this, so I don't really know how I would do that, right? Therefore, I'm trying to like look up your
Good.
worldview and see if it makes
Then the
sense.
worldview that you're standing on right now, that's fine. Look, but the worldview that you're standing on right now, okay, doesn't give you the ability to speak meaningfully about the world. It simply doesn't. Every statement you make is at best blind conjecture and ignorant speculation. That's
And
what it
how do
is.
you know? Sure, but how do you know that this is not the case for you as well?
Because God is revelatory. He's always truth revealing. Okay, and he's secured
And how do
the
you
fact
know
that we
that
can
is
know
true?
things to be the case. Because God's revealed it to be the case. God is the basis of my epistemology.
But okay, so how do you know that God revealed it to you?
I don't know if you heard what I said, but God is the basis of my epistemology. So I have what is
Okay,
known
so
as a
how do you know that God
revelatory.
is the basis for your epistemology
Well,
then?
let me finish so I can explain it to you. Because when
Yeah.
you ask me how I know something to be the case, foundationally and fundamentally, it's going to be rooted in God's revelation. So when you ask me how I know X to be the case, you have your
Mhm.
answer.
Yeah, and if you're saying if you're saying that it's because of some other premise that I don't understand why you believe in the first
There's
place,
no other
then I could
premise
ask.
other. There's no other premise than God has revealed Himself, and that God
Oh,
is always truth revealing. That's
so it's
really
just
it.
a dogmatic belief.
It's not. It's not merely dogmatic belief. It's the case that God's revealed Himself. Okay, and that is how I know things to be the case.
Yeah, but
Right. When
well,
you
the
ask me
question
how
is,
I know
how do
something
you
to be the
know
case,
that God revealed Himself? And you're saying that there's no further explanation. I would just take that to be a dogmatic belief then.
if there's no
Not
further,
that there's anything wrong
listen,
with a
listen,
dogmatic belief. I think that
listen,
the word dogmatic bears some like unwarranted like connotation to it, but it just seems
listen.
to
I
be
just want to
like,
explain this to you. I want to
yeah.
explain this to you. I have what is known as a revelatory epistemology. Okay, where that
Hmm.
which is ultimate. Okay, the only way that us creatures, as finite beings, okay, as creatures that are not ultimate, the only way that we can know certain things to be the case, right, that we can have a basis in reality when we make truth proclamations and when we evaluate certain things to be the case, the only way that can be grounded is in the revelation of that which is ultimate. Okay, that is what my position is, and that is where I'm standing right now. As when you ask me how I know certain things to be the case,
Hmm.
that is how I know because God has revealed it.
Yeah, and how do you know that God revealed it is then the question, right?
God's
And if
revelation
you're
is how I know it. God's revelation is how I know God revealed it.
wait, God's the fact that God revealed it is how you know that God revealed it.
Yeah.
Okay, well that would just be us begging the question, right? You're assuming that God revealed it in order to make the case that God revealed it.
Well, how do you know your own name,
Well, I
Lars?
don't necessarily do know my own name, right?
You don't know your own name?
I don't necessarily do.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming up. I think we've proven our point here.
Oh,
What is
that's fine.
Yeah.
what is
Okay. I hope that was insightful for everyone who's listening. I really do. But thank you, Lars, for coming